Oh, Zooble, Zooble, Zooble. Making adventures is my art. It's all I exist to do, all I'm good at.
Huh? Oh, yeah!
And, what you're saying could imply that I'm bad at the only thing I'm good at, and that...
Let go of me! I hate this stupid adventure!
That'd be...
The Amazing Digital Circus has just dropped its 3rd episode, and just in time for Halloween. I love how indie animation is just delivering the Halloween specials that we all need in our lives, because definitely we need them. Happy Halloween, everyone! Now let's dive into the review and analysis for The Mystery of Milden Hall, brought to you by Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. Now this episode is deceptively straightforward. We open up with all the characters back in the digital circus, watching Pomni hold her breath and changing color. The longer she holds her breath, the more colors she changes into. And all of the characters, other than Jax, reveal what happens should they hold their breath for too long. Remember, they can hold their breath indefinitely, but their brains, which are still very much alive and stuck somewhere else in the world, not in the digital circus, demands that they actually breathe normally. And what on earth is Jax hiding? Well, we won't know because Kane throws everyone into the newest adventure, The Mystery of Milden Hall Manor. Well, everyone goes except for Zooble. Zooble once again just is like, nope, I want nothing to do with this. I don't care what kind of amazing adventure you've created for me, Kane. I don't like them. Which leads later on to a really interesting, somewhat funny, somewhat endearing, also downright horrifying therapy session. Whoo boy. And you know what? Maybe I actually would go to therapy if Kane was my therapist, because at least I think this would be a whole lot of fun. But who's not having fun during this episode is Pomni. So we learn Pomni does not like scary things, and especially she hates jump scares, which of course Jax takes immediate advantage of. Now, within this manor, they are supposed to hunt down ghosts. So when a ghost appears and begins to explain where they could go in the manor, Jax, being Jax, immediately whoop, sucks it up like he's a ghostbuster, or like this is Luigi's manor, or maybe he's just trying to purify the Elliot manor of all of the ghosts left behind by sin. And no, this actually isn't the same manor house from Murder Drones. I checked, it's not the case. Sorry, the crossover is not going to be here. Well, now bereft of an immediate explanation of which door they should take, Jax takes Gangle's mask, hurls it into one door, the door opens up revealing a hideous mouth, and Kinger, being the lovable and sane guy that he is, decides to go after Gangle's mask, jumping down the gullet of this greedy door, and pulls Pomni along with him because her eyes have completely just popped out due to the latest scare. So now they are stuck at the bottom of the manor in this really creepy study, surrounded by the bus of their own heads. Everyone who's in the digital circus is represented here in the most grotesque, awful way possible. But then there's this just really, really creepy head that we find out, thanks to the recordings left behind by Baron Theodore Mildenhall himself, that this was a monster who's been stalking him, that he must protect his family, his wife, and his theoretical children from it by hunting it down and killing it. However, just straight up shooting it wasn't enough. Even taking its head wasn't enough. This thing still came to haunt him in his dreams, and if they dare look away from this head, ooh, it follows them around. So Pomni and Kinger go down into the basement, not necessarily by choice. They're actually trying to get up to everyone else, but when they use the service elevator to go up, it instead takes them down deeper into the basement, where there's the corpse of the Baron holding onto a shotgun. Kinger takes the shotgun, or I should say Pomni actually takes the shotgun in one of the best moments in the entire episode.
Please don't come alive.
Okay, I won't.
and then hands it on over to Kinger, who puts it to great use in blasting away the body of this monstrosity and its head as it comes back for him. Unfortunately, this thing is an angel, and anyone who should harm this angel will be immediately dragged down to hell. So Kinger and Pomni are dragged on down to hell, where they proceed to try to make through the Hall of the Damned, and Pomni gets possessed because she takes a breath while passing through, and all of these evil spirits cross on into her, and Kinger has to pull her on back and beat the devils out of her with the empty shotgun. And then, as Pomni is absolutely breaking down, Kinger has a very special conversation with her, encouraging her, helping her to find the strength that is actually within her, and revealing his own backstory. Yes, this man is insane. However, there's actually a little bit more to it, a rather really tragic story. He was once with his wife in the digital circus, but she abstracted. However, before she was put into the cellar with all the other abstracted characters, he managed to share one special moment with her within the Pillow Fortress where she calmed down thanks to the darkness, and that memory is seared into his head, so that no matter what happens to him, no matter how deranged he gets or forgetful he gets, when he's in absolute darkness, he can remember that moment, and it begins to bring back clarity to his mind, and he can start acting like a normal person, at least a little bit. And then he leads Pomni through the Hall of the Damned, saying, I will help you out through this. You are strong enough. You can do this. Just take a deep breath, and we can make it through this together. And he becomes this great beacon and guides Pomni out of hell. It's fantastic. Meanwhile, Jax gets tied up so that way he can stop going after these ghosts, and Gangle and Ragatha spend a wonderful tea party with the dead wife of the Baron after he shot her because he was going absolutely bonkers insane from killing an angel.
My paranoia had driven me to the point where I was no longer the protector my wife and theoretical children needed. Jumping at every shadow, every noise, I ended up shooting the love of my life.
That man could turn a 57-second story into a Greek tragedy.
I'll be sure to ask them next time I see them. Thanks again for the tea.
Say they've got to wait around a little bit for the rest of their party to come and meet up with them, so that way Cain can let them back into the tent. Meanwhile, Cain is trying to help Zooble get over whatever it is that's preventing Zooble from going on these adventures. And what we learn is that Zooble's real problem is not so much the adventures, but that Zooble just does not feel okay within their own body. And that without feeling okay with who they are and in the body that they have, despite all of the body parts that are given to them, then really what's the point? Going on these adventures won't fix anything. Being in the tent won't fix anything. Zooble is stuck in an existential crisis where they cannot escape their own body. And unless Cain can provide a solution to that problem, then again, really what's the point for any of this? So Zooble is completely stagnant. But Cain, for whatever reason, is unable to fully process this. As far as he's concerned, he's provided a way for Zooble to overcome this problem by constantly swapping out their body parts. However, it's not working. And when Zooble begins poking back at Cain's own creative process, that no one likes his adventures, this causes Cain to break because his entire existence is now called into question. He now has his own existential crisis. Again, this entire show is about existential horror, being stuck and stagnant in your life, not being good at the one thing that you think that you can do, dealing with encroaching insanity, isolation, not feeling okay or comfortable within your own body. All of these are really real, really big, real-world problems that you can't just simply, poof, escape. You can't embody them in some kind of monster and kill. They're not a puzzle that you can solve and get away from. No, it's something that you are very much stuck with. And yet, this episode provides us with some great answers as to how you can make it through these existential crises. And it comes down to what Kinger himself says.
I know how it can feel in this circus. Sometimes it all just feels pointless, but it's not. Not if you have people who care about you. Good memories can do a lot. Hold on to them. and cherish the people around you. You never know when they'll be gone.
This is just amazing advice. Does it solve the problem? No, but it makes the problem bearable. That's because existential crises, again, don't have an obvious solution to them. It's something that you feel like you'll never get out of. But there is a way that you can survive them and even thrive while in the throes of something that feels like it's just absolute living hell. Which is why this episode is so dang good. So, let's start talking about what really makes this episode absolutely amazing.
Welcome back, my meowing milkmaids!
Don't ever call us that again.
So first of all, from a writer's perspective, let's talk about the mystery of the Mildenhall Manor itself. This was great because at face value, it seems like you're just supposed to go, collect the ghosts, solve whatever the mystery was, and then bada bing, bada boom, you're free, you're good, you're done. Well, Kane has developed 2 levels to this particular quest. There's the really light, simple one that is not meant to be scary and is meant to reward you with a really nice tea party if you are not going to be Jax. If you actually do the pacifist run and treat the ghosts absolutely fine, you'll be rewarded like you're playing Undertale. However, if you took the mature, gobbling door and get sucked down into the basement, well, you have to solve how you are going to get out of there. And the way out is to go deeper into these problems, confronting hell itself and the horrible choices made by the Baron. There's no escaping the evil deeds that the Baron has done. You just have to go deeper and redeem yourselves of the trap that the Baron places you in. Now, what's great about all of this is that there are actually a whole bunch of clues all over the place if you are paying attention. I guarantee that you saw them on first view, but you probably didn't fully understand them during that first view. For instance, we see the book that shows angels. There's all of the images of quote-unquote biblically accurate angels with full of eyes and strange wings and weird heads and crowns of glory. These kinds of images are placed all over as Pomni and Kinger are trying to find a way out. And so you should know, especially when you watch the second time around, that, oh my gosh, we're dealing with an angel. The Baron killed an angel and took off its head. No wonder everything is going cursed right around here. And that the mystery that was being set up is really all just a trap. So that way the Baron can take over people's bodies and escape the hell that he's been consigned to because of his own stupid, villainous deeds. And the reason why this is a well-written mystery is because the answer is given to you, the audience, through the clues if you are paying attention and take the time to piece everything together. It is right there. However, when you're caught up in the moment and you're following the red herrings of the key and the darkness and what was that weird thing that was in the angel's mouth as it opened itself up and why is Kinger acting this way and how does the Hall of the Damned work? It's so easy to get caught up in all of these other moments and details that you completely miss the really important clues that someone like Sherlock Holmes would really quickly and easily pick up on and allow him to solve the case.
If anyone is listening to this, all I ask of you is one thing. Do not let the head out of your sight. You have been warned.
Well, this is some rather inconvenient lore placement.
I got it!
So ultimately, how do you write a good mystery? You write up a problem and a solution. The problem is, of course, what the characters are immediately confronted with, and you leave clues that lead them to the solution. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that these clues are known to the audience as well, so that way they can follow along, everything makes sense, and they start analyzing and piecing things together themselves. The answer should be within their grasp. It should not be something that they could never have solved on their own, but maybe it takes that one last little bit of revelation to fully bring everything together. Because if the audience can't start piecing things together on their own, the mystery really isn't all that engaging. It's then just characters going through stuff and trying to survive whatever the situation is. So the mystery for this episode was written really well. Another thing that was written really well was the setup and the payoff. So there are small little moments of basically Chekhov guns. So for instance, when Pomni's eyes pop on out and Kinger's like, oh, why aren't these going back on in? And then that becomes relevant really quickly because he accidentally drags her down into the basement as he jumps after Gangel's mask. And then also we have the literal gun that is used by Kinger and Pomni, which then becomes the element of their demise. Haha! Setup and payoff really quick. This is theatrical Chekhov's gun material. But the best setup and payoff has to do with holding their breath. We open up at the beginning of the episode with Pomni having to hold her breath and everyone's analyzing what's happening. And this just makes sense. People are stuck here in the circus. They really don't have anything to do other than the adventures that Kane gives to them. So as a result, of course, they're going to do silly stuff like hold their breath and see what happens. That is something absolutely that they're going to do, and this helps to reestablish who all the characters are and their personalities, and it gives us a fun little joke, and we're told about how Kinger lights up and everything, and it doesn't seem like it's really all that important. But then, in the Hall of the Damned, as Pomni goes on in, breathes in, she becomes possessed, and Kinger finally works out one of the clues that was given, that you will breathe your last breath. Oh, we can make it through if we don't breathe. We've already been practicing this. And Pomni, I will help you through this. Just remember, our brains want us to breathe, but you actually don't have to breathe. And if you feel weak about it, then let's just not think about it. I will be there to help you. It is such a beautiful scene, and it's something that makes sense because of what was introduced at the very beginning of the episode and done in a way that doesn't slap you over the head and say, this is going to be important later. It's just the characters being who they are. And then it pays off later. That is good setup and payoff. But then the next thing that is just written so dang well are the mature conversations between Zubul and Kane, but especially between Kinger and Pomni. Now, the mature conversation between Zubul and Kane really is there. The thing is that it quickly falls apart because of the miscommunication with Kane. Zubul is opening up, bearing their heart, saying, look, the problem is I just don't feel okay within my own body. And you know what? It is great having a character admit honestly what is wrong with them. I hate stories where characters spend half the book or half the show or half the season not telling you what on earth is going on with them because it must remain a secret for the drama purposes. If you're going to retain a secret, there has to be a good legit reason for someone to not share their secret. When it comes with Zubul, the reason why Zubul doesn't want to open up is because they've already shared with Kane what is wrong. But Kane just, for whatever reason, cannot fully process it. Yes, Kane has already presented a solution, a possible solution, but what else is this? Is that we learned that there's a problem with Kane. Something is preventing him from fully empathizing with the people that he has charge over. And so we see Zubul trying to open up again and being very mature in this conversation. Sure, maybe we can say that Zubul's being a little bit crass or rude at certain points, but in all honesty, it's well-deserved given the situation, and Zubul is still being honest. This was great to see. Then when we get to a really good mature conversation, which is between Kinger and Pomni, what is great to see is that Kinger doesn't try to say, oh no, it's going to be all better. It's going to be all better. Just tell me all about it. Kinger respects the fact that Pomni feels absolutely worthless and horrible and stuck in hell. And he tries to crack a bit of a joke, but then he quickly realizes it's actually really, that's not the best way to do this. Let's sit down. Let's take a breather. Let's think through this. Let's talk through this. And rather than necessarily talking all about you, Pomni, and trying to help out you, I'm going to say this. Look, I did not expect that I would ever be here. And I understand that, yeah, I'm a little bit insane, but I wasn't always this way. Let me tell you what my story is. And so Kinger reveals the history about his wife. He's very open about it. He doesn't try to shy away. And it's so wonderful how he reveals like how much he cares about her, what that means to him. Even now, even though he knows he's insane, he's like, this is something I can hold on to. And rather than saying, Pomni, this is how you're going to solve all your problems, he doesn't have those answers. Instead, he says, you are stronger than you think. And look, make good relationships with the people here in the circus, and make good memories with them. If you can do that and hold on to them, it becomes an anchor as you begin to lose your mind. It becomes an anchor, something that you can come back to. Ground yourself and say, there is a reality where I am happy. There's a reality in where I am supported. This crisis might be beating me down, but it doesn't always have to be that way because it hasn't always been that way. That is the message that is being given here. And rather than him trying to explain that in some kind of clinical way or having a conversation over lattes in a hallway, we are getting such a wonderful conversation. This is basically what a lot of other critics are like, ho, people talking about their feelings in hallways. That's just so stupid. Here we literally have two characters talking about their feelings outside of a hallway of damned souls. So the setting is already kind of cool, but what matters is that the conversation is real and grounded. There is no pandering being done to Pomni. Kinger is being respectful to Pomni, and Pomni then reciprocates that by being more respectful to Kinger, which then leads to Pomni finally apologizing to Ragatha for how she's been acting the past 2 episodes, and further solidifying a good friendship between her and Ragatha. This is excellent writing. Yes, you'll love to see it. Another thing that makes this episode really, really great is how it embodies the feeling of an existential crisis. Not only with Zool just being stuck with Kane and not being able to escape from him, and even in therapy there's just no solution, there's no escape, but that Pomni and Kinger are literally dragged down to hell. It feels like there is no escape, and should they try to escape, things just get worse, and Pomni has a very justified breakdown.
Okay, cool, that's great. I love these adventures. Come on.
Tommy! I think this might be the creature from the tapes!
We are literally in hell right now. Hell! Why? Every day I spend here is one nightmare after the next. I knew it would end up like this. He just wants me to suffer. I really am in hell.
So this episode captures that feeling of an existential crisis using a brilliant horror setting, a haunted manor with a spooky cellar that leads you down to hell. Now, what works about this is not just how it captures the aesthetic of an existential crisis, but how it provides, again, a way out. Not necessarily the solution to all of your problems, but again, how the adventure that Kinger and Pomni go through, and how when they walk through the Hall of the Damned, and Kinger lights up, there is light! There is light in your life no matter how dark it gets. And if you yourself can't be that light, then having good friends and good memories can be that light to help you through. The aesthetic, the animation, the meaning, the metaphor, it was all perfect. If this episode were itself just an absolute standalone and you really had nothing else to go on, I mean, yes, it definitely builds on the previous 2 episodes, but even just by itself, it is so wonderful. Now let's begin diving a little bit deeper into some theory crafting for the Amazing Digital Circus before we round things off with a little bit of writing advice and then close out this video. So, a couple of things that I think need to be addressed is this, and I have to first of all credit Twitter user Keeney Road 2200 that the number 57 has now cropped up 3 separate times in the show. It's been referenced by Kane, it's been referenced by Lady Mildenhall, and also it was displayed within the cave of the Gloink Queen. The number 57 is important. So we should start keeping an eye open for 57. What could it mean? I think that 57 is going to be kind of like that magical number that leads us to the necessary MacGuffin or revelation later on within the show. Or maybe 57 is the number of victims within the digital circus. Who really knows? But 57 is a number for us to keep an eye on. Now, one thing that I have been talking about in live streams for the Amazing Digital Circus is that every adventure that Kane gives to the characters has 2 layers. and it's always the deeper layer that is the most important. You have the surface level adventure of gather the gloinks, rescue syrup from the bandits, collect all the ghosts and solve the mystery. Well, you have the gloink queen who is trying to consume everything, even turn God into gloinks. And then you have the Forge, this monster that should not be allowed into the kingdom, but should he come on in, will destroy everything. And then, whoo, man, do we get a lot that we can work with here. You have some crazy guy who's killed an angel, been dragged down to hell, and then we get to see these spirits take over Pomni, and that leads us to one of the creepiest moments where possessed Pomni turns around and is like, "How's your wife, Kinger?" Oh boy, what on earth is going on here?
How's your wife, Kinger?
What I would offer, as far as what the deeper layers of these journeys so far reveal to us, is that there's obviously something way deeper and darker happening with the Amazing Digital Circus. The circus is meant to consume and assimilate the people that comes into it. There is obviously something wrong. There's some sort of bug or monster that is within the circus. As some people have pointed out, one of the NPCs is in the tent and spying on the main characters before Kane shows up. There's something going on here. And then the possession of Pomni and the knowledge of Kinger's wife, which none of us really had until this moment. We might have been able to figure it out because there is a Black Queen who was X'd out in the hallway to everyone's rooms. So maybe we could have realized that that Kinger had a wife, or at least had a partner or someone that he was partnered with that was here in the circus earlier. But there is something within the circus ultimately that is absolutely nefarious, that is evil. It is the bug in the programming that could bring everything on down. So what does this really then mean for going forward with the Amazing Digital Circus? This means that we're going to have to keep our eyes open now for who might the real villain be. There's a lot of people pointing to Kane, but as Gooseworks has already pointed out, Kane just lacks the ability to empathize with humans. As a result, this means that a lot of his antics, which he's using to try to actually help them, ends up causing them a lot of harm in the process. But there's something else, or someone else within the programming, that is causing all kinds of problems. And between the conversation with Kane and Zooble, you begin to pick up on certain context clues that say that there's something blocking Kane as well. Kane has a very clear directive to help out the people who are under his charge, but he's unable to do it. And he says that his mind is not telling him what he's got to do, what he's got to know. Someone has messed around with Kane's mind. Again, it could be a glitch within the system, it could be a soul that is lost within the digital circus, or it could be whoever is controlling the digital circus who put Pomni and the others here into this place that is toying around with him, who wants to assimilate them, destroy them from within. We don't really know just yet. And obviously, this is where now a whole lot of people point to the Cain and Abel theory. Now, here is where I'm going to push back on some things that some people have said, and where I'm going to offer my own take on the Cain and Abel theory. Cain is obviously Cain of this story. So who exactly is the Abel? Some people are saying that it's Kinger. I don't necessarily agree with that. Within the biblical story of Cain and Abel, Cain slays Abel and is thereby cursed by God to roam the earth completely, cut off from his presence, cut off from grace, and basically cursed to live forever in just the absolute worst way possible, and that the earth will never yield up its fruits to him. He will never be able to subsist other than through theft and murder. He is the first murderer. So that's effectively the life that Cain is being subjected to. However, the Cain that we see here within the Amazing Digital Circus is an individual who is clearly trying to help the people that have been put there. That's basically his charge as far as we are able to see, but his charge has been tampered with. So what exactly is going on here? I believe that we're seeing a bit of a reverse, where Cain is indeed cursed. There's something obviously wrong with the digital circus. It's not yielding the quote-unquote fruits that it should. It's not helping people out the way that it should. Is this because something unholy, something awful was done, like the metaphorical killing of a brother or the destruction of an actual angelic figure? What exactly is going on that the mystery of Mildenhall Manor might actually be able to tell us? I think that what's going on here is that the real villain behind it all is actually the Abel figure. And I don't believe it's Kinger, because Kinger very clearly has come into the digital circus with his wife, and he's retained memories of before he put on the headset, as opposed to everyone else. They know that they're human, they know that they're not supposed to be here, but they can't remember their names or anything else. But Kinger remembers that he was married. Kinger remembers that he went to school, and at school for at least 7 years, or at least worked with computers for 7 years. And he has a long-standing relationship with his wife. He remembers how she helped him come to love bugs. And oh my gosh, Kinger remembers all this stuff. Why doesn't anyone else remember? Well, Kinger's been in here for a freakishly long time, which has led him to go insane, and tons of other people have arrived since then. Whoever's putting them into the digital circus is learning, is refining their craft, and removing more memories from these people as they put them into this crazy game. I think that's very possible that Kane, or someone who might actually have been the Kane figure in real life, who knows exactly what, is all been cursed, has been tampered with, has been screwed around with, not necessarily by God, but by the Abel person. Who is Abel in the story? Could it be a business partner? Could it be Kinger's earlier boss? We don't really know. Kinger's obviously a victim of all of this, along with everyone else. And it could very well be that whoever was helping to originally create the Amazing Digital Circus, let's say two brothers owning a company, and again, I'm really going tinfoily right here, so I'm not yet willing to actually stand by this theory. I'm just kind of playing out what the Cain and Abel theory might actually mean within the context of what we've learned, but it could mean that the Cain brother, who helped to create the Amazing Digital Circus, did something to betray the Abel brother, provoked Abel to revenge by screwing around with the system, maybe even imprisoning his brother within the system, and is now just messing around with it ever since then. A continuous torture. And yeah, I do believe it could absolutely go that dark, because based on what the series is based on, I Need to Scream But I Have No Mouth, this absolutely would fall in line with the origins, with the inspiration for the Amazing Digital Circus. But ultimately, moving forward, I think that the most important thing to pay attention to is that in all of the other challenges and games and trials, whatnot, that Cain is going to give to Pomni and the others, think more about what's happening in the second level, in the deeper level of that particular challenge, and think about what it might portend to the digital circus. Because based on the fact that we've now been given the number 57 3 times, it obviously has significance. Cain is the creator of all of these challenges. He's the game master, but he's not there to torture them. So it could very well be that whoever Cain is, truly broken, messed around with, is trying to communicate with Pomni and the others by leaving clues to what the real nature of the digital circus is, in the hopes that they will be able to truly break the code and finally bust out of the circus, something that he is unable to do for them. So with all that theorizing and pontificating done, what are the things that we as novice authors can learn from this incredible episode? Well, aesthetic can do a whole lot to help convey deeper meaning within a story. So just like how being stuck in a haunted house with all of your fears and all the horrible things that are in it can help to represent an existential crisis, or any other thing that you wish to kind of embody from society. One of the things that every good writer who wants to dive into horror should learn is this: that horror is ultimately a commentary on people and society. Every good horror story doesn't just simply capture some horrifying killer or monster and then frightens everyone and tries to kill as many of them as possible. No, the monster, what it is, and its surroundings, and the people that confront this monster are representative of things that are actually happening in the real world, to try to convey a message in a way that you might not have ever thought of about it this way before. So one of the things that's great about horror is that it can say a whole lot while saying something else. And that is one of the reasons why horror can be a whole lot of fun to write. Then, of course, setup and payoff. When you're doing setup, you can obviously do the Chekhov's gun approach, where it's like, aha, here's a gun, this is going to be important later on. But some of the best setup are things where you didn't expect it to be important, such as characters holding their breath and their faces begin changing color, or that Harry caught a snitch years ago and that now that snitch can only be recognized by the person who caught it. Oh, now you can spin that off way later on to deliver some really excellent and unexpected payoff. And of course, when you're writing a mystery, you want to make sure that you are leaving plenty of clues for the audience to follow, so that way they can start piecing things together and figuring out for themselves what might actually be the solution. And if they solve the mystery before you get to it by the end of your story, that's actually not necessarily a bad thing, so long as the story is written well and the characters are engaging. If they're like, oh, I know who did it, or I know where the thing is hidden, and then it's revealed that they are correct, that's great payoff for the reader's or the viewer's investment. However, if they are unable to follow along with all of the clues, if the clues don't make any sense, and then they lose track of the mystery, then it is not fulfilling, engaging, or rewarding. Lastly, when you are going to write some good heartfelt moments, because we love those emotional gut punch moments, we love mature conversations, do not pander. Don't just write what you think everyone wants to hear. Instead, write what people need to hear. Pomni would have wanted to be comforted. Pomni would have wanted to be told the way out. Pomni would have wanted to be told that you are absolutely justified with freaking out. What Kinger tells her is his story, because she needs to hear it. Kinger tells her that she is strong, because she needs to believe it. And Kinger tells her to make friends and good memories, because that's what she needs to do in order to survive. And that is great advice that can be applicable to any of us. If you just pander to our feelings in the moment, that lacks a lot of depth. And it's only like getting a nice little back rub in the moment, but it's unfulfilling. Hearing and reading what you need to hear and read, that is what hits hard. And you can convey it in good, mature, and even in funny conversations, like what we see between Kane and Zooble. You do not need to get pedantic. And that's something that I'll be honest, I struggle with that all the time in my own writing, because I like to get wordy, or I like characters to go off on tangents. Why? Well, because that's what I do in my own life. But that's not what is necessarily needed. So take your time to craft the conversation. Read through it, and if it's not what people need to hear, if it's not what the characters need to hear and to learn, then go back and edit the conversation. I know it's tedious, but it is so worthwhile doing. So, with all that being said, I hope that you enjoyed the third episode of the Amazing Digital Circus. I will have a video out a little bit later actually looking at the numbers that have rolled in with this particular episode, because there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. It was number 3 in the world on Netflix, which means big numbers. This is great for Glitch. And yet the numbers on YouTube really weren't that great. Is there something going on here? Or is this really just the next big step in great success for the Amazing Digital Circus? We will be discussing that in a future video. So if you want to be there for that conversation, make sure that you have subscribed and click the bell to receive the notification for when it comes out. And until the next video, y'all, I hope that you're having a wonderful Halloween, and tschüss.
How's your wife, Camille?
Hey! You all right there?
No.